Welcome to the unscripted ramblings of a community diagnosed madman at the lab. A little bit to unpack in this one. Yeah, a lot. How much do I cover? Superlap. So first round might be the 19th of January at Manfeild. Entry numbers are a little bit low. As of last night, it was basically they needed another 4 entries or they were going to pull the pin and the round wasn't going to happen. That's a bit sketchy, a bit scary. Well, not scary, but a bit of a worry. I've got accommodation booked down at Manfeild and I don't know when the cancellation date is, the cut-off for that, before I end up paying for it anyway. So the round might get cancelled because there might not be enough people going, and then I've got $280 worth of accommodation in Manfeild, which I won't need. 280 bucks would go, I think that's 2 rolls of carbon fibre, 6 metres of carbon fibre. And I've been playing around with that lately, so that'd be nice to have that rather than just throw it away. Maybe we could put the room up for a homeless person or something for the night, I don't know. So there's that. And then I'm not sure whether they're going to announce whether they got the 4 entries or not. The shop that I get all my fittings, my AN fittings and stuff, they're on holiday hours, so they're open from 8 till 10. So if I'm going to go buy some things to do something else that I might do, because we won't be going to Manfeild, then I kind of need to know now so I can go and buy those things now. They'll be there tomorrow, I guess, but that would be then, today would be not as useful as it could be. What have I been up to? Let's show you some interesting things instead of my ugly face. There's actually a fair bit. There's a lot of fiddling, little things that don't really stand out and don't really make much difference visually unless you're paying close attention. I put these stays on here. I don't know if I've mentioned that in any of the videos, and I'm not going to go back to look. It might be an update, it might be a repeat for some of you. So I've put the splitter stays on there, and I've corrected the slight symmetry of the splitter. The side was just a little bit higher than that side, just the way it cured and the skin pulled and all that sort of carry on. That's really good. You can definitely stand on that now. I'm not going to. It is carbon fibre. You can fatigue it. It's got so many cycles in its life of pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling, and eventually it goes, gets stuffed and gives up. So I'm not going to just stand on it every video, just to show that can be done. Made some splitter end plates. Got a bit carried away. That's 9 layers of carbon fibre, and that's, now that that's cured, that's not going anywhere. That's really good and strong. Made some angles to bond it on the other side here. This is from carbon fibre tape, which I might go and buy some more and do the same thing on the wing at the back. I'll show you that in a second why. And then on the bottom side I used aluminium, bonded that on, did a bit of a shapey shape to it like that. So accidentally I pushed the off button on the phone. Yep. So the aluminium's there, a bit more abrasion resistant than carbon fibre is, so that can take a few scratches on the ground before it'll obliterate itself. Yep. Now under here there's a little bit to see. I'll throw this on here. What I need to do is actually bond a couple of pieces of aluminium on those back corners, because they have worn away from some idiot stacking it on the floor like this all the time. I told you of madman's ramblings, didn't I? New power cable on here. There's a new power cable, and it goes up instead of going down, because it no longer runs through the transmission tunnel anymore. It goes up and it goes through a proper bulkhead fitting right there. It's as tucked away as it can be practically, but being realistic, if I punt this into a wall really hard and squish all this back and the fuel tank gets squished back there, then it may cut through the silicon boot over the top of it and you're going to have a fire, I guess. But if you've punted this is actually going to take quite a bit of impact to move that. We've tested that. Remember, we tested that with cones and It's amazing how much impact you can have on that splitter and what it transfers back into the car. It'd take a lot to pump that all the way back there and pump that into that, and it's better. It's better now, it's safer now, because our cable, it's in there now. Hang on. There we go, I'm inside now. So it's nice and secure. I need to put one more here. Actually, one more P-clamp just there. And that's these nice ones. They're at the shop that I was talking about before. So the main power cable now runs through, and yes, it's right there, right next to where the clutch is and everything, but it has to go to the starter motor and the alternator on the engine at some point, so it's got to go past there. But we've only got that one cable doing that now. Previously, the PDM, the power supply for the PDM, see that ducts off this way now? That used to come from over there on the starter motor, because of course the main cable from the starter motor then goes to the alternator, and it used to run right over the top of the bell housing inside here, and then come down here and go to the PDM. So if clutch and flywheel kaboom, which does happen when you run a lot higher RPM and a whole crap load more horsepower than what that system was designed for. It is a triple plate clutch in there now, but the flywheel, you know. Then you've got a main battery cable that's unfused, and it's just sitting there, and bad things that happen. So we've only got that one now, and that's inside, out of the way as much as possible. This other cable, it runs, I'm just trying to beat everything up and hit my head on things and all that. So that main cable for the PDM, it now runs up there. It's slightly longer. This one section of cable is slightly longer. It goes up there to the other side. That needs a boot on it. I need to buy one of that bulkhead fitting. So that cable is slightly longer than what it was when it went from there across over there to where the starter motor is. However, it is much shorter distance to the battery, and I think it's better to have a shorter distance to the battery than a shorter distance to the alternator as far as getting rid of noise and stuff. I could have put a connector over here somewhere, joined this cable, and then just gone straight from there to there, but more connections, ugliness, bad. This is, I think, tidy for what it is, so that's that all nice and done. Now you want to see the side skirts, because I finished those. Finished. That's the ugly one. It's the ugly one because it's got a crater in it there. You can park an SUV in that. But otherwise it's not too bad. I stopped short of going full crazy and getting it looking absolute show car. There is a little bit of a dent here. There you go, you just saw it there. If we get the light in the right spot, there. There's a bit of a hollow from where I made the mold for the front section. So that's two pieces joined together there. Probably looks worse on your screen than what it does in person, perhaps. Not an awful job. Like I say, I stopped short of going full crazy on it, because as soon as this goes to the track, there are rocks and pieces of rubber and all sorts of crap are going to come off here, and they're going to smash into that, and it's going to look pretty shonky, like immediately, like first session. So what we've got here, yeah, it's got some things wrong with it. There's a little bit of polish sitting in a few little pinholes here, you know, stuff like that. If I spray a bit of CRC over that, that'll all go dull, it'll all go dark, and you won't see it anymore. There's no sense in chasing it further, spending another 4 hours and making all this all 100% mint, and the first time you use it, it's going to look worse than that anyway, straight away, because splat. Now I haven't done the little, it might be on the bench, hold fire. It was, and it's actually even the right side. The other side hasn't been taken off the side skid. I haven't done this little piece that goes in here, because I'm just trying to decide, do I make it from carbon fibre or do I leave it in aluminium, because it gets absolutely smashed. It gets hammered. Go back a few seconds to my previous comments about rocks and bits of rubber and stuff. So there's that. Do I put that on? Do I make it out of carbon fibre? Do I make it out of aluminium? Just put the old ones back on there? Do I polish them? Do I put a little lip up here? Do I come out here and fold it up and do a little fence like a lot of cars do? It helps duck the air away from there. I'm not going to get the CFD software and try and figure out the absolute best way to make this do exactly what it needs to do. It's just good. That's it. That is it. It's either like that and that just gets smashed and we're, what does that weigh? Probably 80 grams. We're 80 grams lighter on each side, or we put something on here and figure something out. A little bit of weight may or may not improve the aerodynamics of it. Someone's probably done that testing. Someone probably knows how messy the air is behind this tyre here and how much will be trying to come through here. It should really chop the front of the door off about here, and that will help with the airflow. See, because the hinges are a wee way back there, so we can actually chop that all the way back to that edge there. It's very hard to show you with the poor light, but no priority on that sort of stuff. I'll throw this, see the messy bench. Priorities. So I have a full set of those spark plugs, and I have 2 of these ones ordered, and that gives us 2 full sets of plugs, plus the ones that are in the car, which are these, and this puppy is the one that failed at chrome. Now I had a look at it yesterday and I was like, oh, I didn't actually sandblast that and test it. Maybe I should do that and just see whether it does actually work. So I sandblasted it and it's clean as a whistle and put it in the car. It just does not work. It just doesn't go. At idle, the car just will not fire on that cylinder. You pull the coil off it and pull the coil way out to here somewhere, and then it starts firing on that cylinder. So, and it's not the cylinder, it's not the coil. We swap this plug around and it does it the same everywhere this plug goes. So I don't know what has gone wrong inside that. The ceramic inside it is cracked or broken or something like that, and it's arcing out inside perhaps. You're fired. Oh, there's not much to see on the outside. I was talking about those wings, the end plates rather. So I could get some tape and do away with these aluminium bits and put carbon fibre on. It'll look a whole lot nicer, and if I'm going to do that, I might as well actually bond a new layer of carbon fibre on these and make them a bit thicker. They're a bit flimsy anyway, and get rid of all these holes and stuff and just make it look nicer, prettier. Let's have a look underneath. Inside here, new guard liner. I removed, there was a plastic liner in there. I took that out, and that clearly is aluminium, 0.9 millimeter thick, so it's very lightweight, and it covers a bigger area. It's very hard to, there you go, film all that accurately. And it goes all the way down to the top of the back of our diffusers, I guess we're going to call them, on the end of the pods. Let's call these things down here, well, let's call that a pod now for argument's sake. So same on both sides. I have done that, and we've got a much bigger diffuser on the back of the pods. There's some areas that need some tape to cover up these gaps to stop air doing things we don't want it to do. So that the idea is that the same as the diffuser on the back, that's going to try and speed up the air under here and maybe make more downforce. I'm not sure. It depends on what we do at the front here, and then how well we're stopping the air scooting in from the side out there. I do want to put, again, I need some more carbon fibre, do want to put some sort of deflector type thing here. We need to get rid of some of the air out that way to stop it doing whatever it wants to do on the front of the tyre. And I do want to direct some of it this way to try and get it into here for the brakes. Other than that, we've got these nice big flat fiberglass panels. I need to secure that there. That's going to make a lot of noise when I drive the car. All these rivets have got to disappear and put riv nuts and screws. I've got to go and buy those so that then I can actually unbolt pod or side skirt. It's always been a case of, with the panel underneath, it's always been riveted, and that's a pain in the ass if you want to take it off. Now for Manfeild, we're supposed to be able to have basically the track all to ourselves all day. So I have put a NACA duct in that panel there to get some more, well, to get some, it had none, obviously it's fully sealed, to get some airflow in around CV joints and gearbox, etc. And this duct in this front panel here, which looks like it's off center, which it is, because the transfer box is, oh, I can't get the lens in the right spot. It's there, it's in there, and I've got a heatsink hanging off the side of the transfer box. So the idea was that would help cool those things, and they might not be the limiting factor on how much track time I can do or could do if we went. We may or may not. I think I showed you these already. Little diffuser type do-flicky thingies that could do a little bit of fairing on the front, couldn't it? Fill that in with a bit of resin or just put a bit of tape on it. Same deal as the back. I want to try and get some air going up here, and then we'll put a deflector in here and get it onto the brakes. So yeah, quite a bit going on. I'm going to shift a couple of other things perhaps. Really just need to wait and see what happens with this thing, whether we're running at Manfeild or not. Intercooler coolant pump. Now, it lives down there, right from the get-go, right from the start of the project, way back when the thing was just rear-wheel drive. There was an attempt to get as much of the, as practical, as much of the weight that we could towards the front to try and balance the car out quite nicely. So the intercooler coolant pump lives there, which is kind of as far forward and as low down as possible. Now it could go that way, except we've got our great big heavy hydraulic electric power steering pump down there. The issue with having this in here, you can see it's insulated already. That issue, I mean, it's actually not really a problem, but I can probably make things better. The issue is that the radiator here is obviously very hot, 80, 90, 100 degrees C, and there's a lot of hot air coming off that. So everything in here gets all nice and toasty and hot. I could potentially put, it's down there, the fitting with the hose that goes that way. I could put that fitting on the other side of that tank there, and put a bulkhead fitting on the firewall and chuck that through onto the inside of the car and put that pump and everything inside the car where it's nice and cool. It does get pretty toasty in there, but it's not as hot as what it is in here. Then the coolant tube, which currently runs through the transmission tunnel, which is quite toasty when the car's out there doing stuff and things. The gearbox and transfer box get up over 90 degrees C, so it's quite toasty in that transmission tunnel. Instead of sending all our coolant through that tube and warming it all up before it gets to the intercooler at the back, we can send our coolant tube through the inside of the car here. There's a duck around here. There's a nice little panel that I've already plugged, a round circle there, the aluminium one, so we can put a bulkhead fitting. Actually, there's a hole right there with a bung in it. But we can put a bulkhead fitting anywhere in that general area, come through, have the pump down here somewhere on a nice mount bracket, and then we can run the coolant hose, pipe, tube, whatever, pretty much anywhere in here. In fact, there's enough room between the sill and the roll cage to sneak it down this side here, and then poke it through. There's actually conveniently a couple of holes that are blanked off there, instead of having it running through that hot transmission tunnel. I suppose the car might be a few grams lighter perhaps, and it will shift the weight out to the left a little bit maybe, but that wouldn't really be the reason for doing it. The reason, like I say, is the heat transfer that's going on there. It could make the difference between the car hitting that point where it pulls timing out of it and you lose a little bit of power or not. And it might make the difference to get a good lap in, or maybe offset the crappy driver who's a bit tired or whatever puffy eyes this morning, haven't I? So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm going to go see whether we've been told whether we can do Manfeild or not, and go and buy some fittings. Thanks for watching. Cheers, boy. It's about 6 something, 10 past 6, say. We got the news at lunchtime, rounds cancelled. So no Manfeild. Oh well, it happens. I think they needed 12 entries minimum to make it work. It's $400 per entry. I don't know what the overheads are. Track hire seems pretty cheap down there. Maybe we can do something one day. So I've carried on with some other stuff and things. There's a auto addict on Sunday at Hampton Downs, and then there is a test day on the 28th. So the weather looks like it'll be all right on Sunday. Don't know if I want to do that. 28th might be the one. Take the car out and give it a black. Ignore this. This is lying again. So in the meantime, I have carried on with some things. Spot the shiny thing. That there. Now there's a cunning plan there. Because I haven't changed the pedal set in this car, the brake master cylinder has been changed, but the reservoir is still the original reservoir. And the booster and the pedals. They are the only moving pieces in the car that contribute to its propulsion or control in any way, shape or form. There's nothing else left of the original Nissan March driveline. So some people say not much Nissan March left. Well, I suppose that's true as far as the driveline goes, panels and stuff. Not so much, but I digress. So what I'm doing here is it's very, that's a large diameter booster, right? So when you put vacuum on that, because it's a really big diameter, it gives a lot of assistance. So it's really super easy to pinch up the brakes and then you're done. So what I've got here is another one of these AN6 weld-ons down at the bottom of this tank. I've got a manifold air pressure sensor. It's not a link one. I was going to put a link one on there, but this one's kicking around and that's ideal for what it's doing. It came out of the second handy. And I've got a T here, and I'm going to put a MAC valve on there, otherwise known as a boost control valve, and mount it somewhere. I'll put it in here. Ideally I'd like to run off this PDM, but I've actually maxed that out. If I take the headlights off, we don't really need the headlights. They were only put on for a round of roll racing, which we didn't end up doing. So if I unplug the headlights, I've got two ADIOs, analog digital input outputs, available, and that's all we need. So one to run the MAC valve and one for the map sensor, and then we can go straight into here and run it through CAN into the ECU in there. So the plan is the hole that's in the bottom AN6 fitting on the bottom of the tank where the vacuum comes from the engine is quite a small hole. It's about 3 millimeters, so it's probably going to flow less, or maybe about the same as what the MAC valve will. For those that don't know what it is, there it is. Where is it? I should be saying. There's a MAC valve. As that sits at the moment, if you suck on that, nothing happens. If I put electricity on that, the valve opens up, and if you suck on that, air comes in through here. So it's got a filter, so that's quite good. We won't suck any junk into the engine. Comes in through here and will go into that tank. So using the map sensor, we'll know how much pressure is in there, and using the link ECU, we can control what this valve is doing. We'll put it on pulse width modulation, which means it'll trigger the little solenoid inside there so many times per second, and the computer will control the duration of the pulses, basically. And so then we can control the pressure that's going to the brake booster. There's always people going,
why don't you just put a pedal set in it? It needs a pedal set. Put a pedal box in there. Get a tilt-in pedal box and put that in your car.
They're probably doing it a slightly different voice than that, but the reason why is money, and it's a slightly awkward setup. Being a Nissan March has not really ever been designed with a pedal box in mind, and yeah, I could put one in there, but it'll be a lot more expensive than what you think, even taking that into account, thinking this is going to cost a heap more than what I'm thinking, it'll probably still blow out, and it'll be a $3,000 job to put a pedal box in the car. It does Superlap. It used to do Leadfoot. Leadfoot's dead, never happening again, I believe. Maybe it'll come back one day, who knows. And it's just fun the rest of the year, so that's a lot of money to spend on that. I think this will work. If I put a little knob on the dash, turn it up, turn it down, and then we'll figure out what works. I may even put a pressure sensor on the brake line so that I can see where we're at, like how much brake pedal pressure or fluid pressure actually induces a lockup, and then I can set it up here at home and make sure that a given amount of push on the pedal, what feels right, is about that point where you know you're pushing it really hard and it's going to lock up, and we can set it all up. That's the beauty of logging stuff and things in data. And I've talked too much. What have we got here? 5 minutes on the screen. It's an 18-minute video. That'll do. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.